Yes, we can.
Each man must do his bit.
Welcome to another issue of The Public Interest. My name is David Granger, and on this series of programs, we examine matters of interest to the Guyanese public at home and in the diaspora. And today we look at a matter which concerns at least half of our population, and perhaps future generations as well. This is the question of what I would call children getting children. You know, I'm talking about adolescent pregnancy and early motherhood. You know, girls who should long ago you say they should be playing litty are now minding baby. It is something that needs to be addressed not only by government or the health authorities, but by the entire country. Every family, every community, every region should be concerned. My friends, the truth is that by this time tomorrow, 9 or 10 Guyanese girls would have become pregnant or delivered babies every day of the year. And it's been going on for several years. At least 9 Guyanese girls become pregnant or deliver babies every single day. What I call adolescent pregnancy and early motherhood have now reached epidemic proportions in this country. 3,000 girls, and I call them girls because they are girls, become pregnant annually. It's the highest rate of adolescent pregnancy in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Guyana has that distinction, the highest rate of adolescent pregnancy and early motherhood in the entire Caribbean, in the Anglophone Caribbean. And what's more, the incidence of adolescent pregnancy, what you call teenage pregnancy, occurs mostly in 5 hinterland regions: Burima Waini, Region 1, Kiyuni Mazruni, Region 7, Pataro Simuruni, Region 8, Rupununi, Region 9, and Upper Demerara, Bodies, Region 10. Those areas have the highest national ratio and rate of adolescent pregnancy. This issue has been studied by the government, certainly under my administration, APNU, AFC administration. And we produced a report, a situation analysis, which showed that those 5 regions, the hinterland regions, account for the highest rate of teen mothers. Those are women, girls between the ages of 15 and 19. God, they're not women, they're girls between 15 and 19 giving birth. And the rate in Guyana is exceeded only by that in Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. Well, we have the highest rate in the English-speaking Caribbean. Well, even the Pan American Health Organization made a study, and they found that the rate of childbearing in Guyana was twice the world average. This is not twice the Caribbean average, twice the rate in the world, the whole world, Africa, Asia, South America, East Asia, everywhere. So Guyana is making waves for the wrong reason. And the fact that those hinterland regions, those 5 hinterland regions, including Region 10, 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10, are the areas where most teenage girls get babies, and most of them are unmarried. My friends, this is something that demands the attention of the state and of every citizen. When we speak of adolescent pregnancy, we're speaking about girls between the ages of 15 and 19. Well, it's essentially girls who deliver babies before their 20th birthday. As long as they're not 20, they're teen. And this is the plight of those adolescents. adolescence means you hadn't yet become an adult. I don't need on this program to go into the question of how people become pregnant. I think every adolescent figures that out one way or the other. Um, Adolescence is a time of discovery, experimentation, but I don't want to go into the biological causes. Everyone knows how people start to feel when you reach puberty. But when adolescents indulge in unprotected sexual relations, many of them are likely, especially the girls, many of them are likely to become pregnant. Eight, 8 out of 10 adolescent pregnancies are unplanned. A couple of them deliberately decide to become pregnant for whatever reason. I'm not going to investigate that on this program. But the majority of adolescents who become pregnant, of course, only girls can become pregnant, do so in between the second and fourth forms in secondary school. So if you have a daughter between second form and fourth form, that is the period during which research has shown that many adolescents become pregnant. And parents have to be aware of that reality. Now, there might be scores of reasons, and I, for the benefit of this program and for our discussion today, I've selected 10 of those reasons or 10 of those factors. For one, they could be ignorant. Some people just don't know that what they're involved in will result in pregnancy. Might be unbelievable, but it is true. The other thing, of course, is an education deficiency. Some people just have never been educated about, about sex, and they just don't know. And they have, because they haven't been educated, they feel there might be some way of having sex without getting pregnant. Some people know the consequences, but they don't have access to birth control techniques, and they take a chance. And well, of course, when they're uninformed, the chances could result in pregnancy. Sometimes too, there is a problem of employment instability. A girl may be working with a boss in a subordinate position, and she may think that by extending her sexual favors she might get ahead and hold on to her job. Sometimes she may have a boyfriend who likely is much older than she is, and the boyfriend brings in money, and one way to hold on to the boyfriend is to get a child for him, and that they think is going to ensure their economic stability, that once she gets a child for this man, he will look after her and the child. And sometimes they just need money, they need help, they need financial security, and they feel that you could receive a steady income, one way or the other, child support, or some big sugar daddy gives them money every so often. Sometimes they migrate and they send some old polo shirts and some barrel or something to them. But they feel better than nothing. And sometimes, you may discover that girls who fall under the influence of their peers, the girl next door, the girl in the next street, she got a baby, and people are laughing at her for not having a baby, and so she gets a baby. So next thing you know, several girls, teenagers, have babies, because of the pressure their peers. It's nice, girl, you go on, man, go on. And you feel that they're living up to the expectation of their peers. Sometimes pressure from the media. Nowadays, with the easy access to pornography, Um, many girls may feel, hey, this is fun, and they feel that, well, it is one way to have fun. And we've had several instances, you read in the newspapers, of girls in secondary school between the ages of second and fourth form, on school premises, being caught in love making. I must mention is a very bad case that I knew about in one school in Georgetown, and the headmistress went into the room and they saw all the students gathered around, and she got in it. A boy and girl were making love, and she collapsed and died the next day. Yes, it did happen. It is true. A head teacher in a Guyanese school went into a classroom and saw two students making love, much to the um, much to the satisfaction of the other students, and she collapsed and had a heart attack. Um, then there could be problems of the parents, and there's one community I'm told, I don't have any concrete evidence, in which the average age of grandmothers is 33, which probably means that the child's mother probably became pregnant herself as a teenager. So she had no problem with her own daughter becoming pregnant. So the complacency of the mother is sometimes a factor that has to be dealt with. And unfortunately, too, some girls have been trafficked by their parents, and knowingly they've been sent out to earn money by prostitution. I don't know how widespread it is, but there is evidence that some girls have been prostituted to make money for their family. So the parents have a role to play sometimes when adolescents get pregnant, because the parents knew very well what is going on and they know the likely outcome. And they don't give the sort of guidance to their daughters. But then there's some societies which tolerate, adolescent pregnancy. They see nothing wrong with it. Okay, they don't work out the consequences for the girl or the family, and the result is that there could be an intergenerational problem, that the mother herself got pregnant as an adolescent, and her child gets. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way we do things in this community or with this family. Then there's the question of substance abuse. Some people just drink too much, and once they get drunk or high, they look for cheap sex. And sometimes, you hear about people in some rural areas getting drunk, and when they get high, they look for a girl, a girl working at a bar, a stewardess, or um, somebody who they feel they can get easy sex from. And the worst case, of course, is rape. That many young girls could be raped. And don't forget that having sex with underage girls is statutory rape and it's a criminal offense. But sometimes family members, and there are cases in which family members impregnate young girls. When I was in office, and my wife and I would go to the Georgetown Hospital um, early on Christmas morning. You'd, occasionally, you'd see some girls who were brought from the hinterland. And when you look at them, you say, this girl ought not to be carrying a baby. And unfortunately, sometimes the father of the baby is the own father. The father is grandfather of his child. It sounds comical, but it is tragic. And my wife told me about an instance when Prince Harry was here in 2016, and she is the head of an organization called the Naira Foundation, which is concerned with teen moms, and there were other organizations, the Women Across Differences, and of course, Guyana Women Minors Organizations. So there's several organizations that are involved in trying to deal with this problem. But coming back to the question here, Prince Harry actually visited State House where we were living at that time, and she met some of these teenage mothers. And so, he went up to this girl. He said, how's baby doing? How old is baby? He said, oh, she's just uh, 12 weeks now. He said, yeah, and how old are you? I'm 12. And I think the prince nearly got a cardiac infarction. The baby is 12 weeks and the mother is 12 years old. And of course, she's unmarried, and you don't need to ask who the father is. So these are some of the problems that we have. These are some of the factors which cause adolescent pregnancy. I've just listed about 10 of them, and of course, you, from your own experience and knowledge, may know well otherwise or even better. Some might be wrong, but this is what my research has shown me. So we need to look at the consequences of adolescent pregnancy. All of us are concerned because it's not that our own daughters might be involved, but we may know other, maybe some of the girls may come to us for advice. And there are consequences. There are economic consequences, there's medical consequences, psychological consequences, social consequences. And many of these consequences are not good. Many of these consequences are not good. Very frequently, a girl who gets a child during her teenage years might be socially stigmatized. Maybe other mothers don't want her own daughters to do what she has done because there are problems there. They could be excluded from school. Our school system, our education system, the public education system, is not geared to have pregnant girls in third or fourth form. That's a fact. And very frequently, teenage mothers end up cutting short their education simply to stay home and get a baby and then look after the baby. That is gone, of course, but the girls have to bear the burden of bringing the baby into this world and looking after the baby. And the education will be disrupted, will be damaged. Maybe they can recoup later on, but that is one of the consequences. An adolescent girl who does not stop drinking, if she smokes, she doesn't stop smoking. If she consumes drugs, nowadays some people like to think that maybe smoking ganja is fashionable. This could be very harmful to the fetus. And very often, daughters who themselves are daughters of mothers who were pregnant teenagers, adolescent mothers, are forced to withdraw from the labor market. In fact, the unemployment rate for adolescent mothers is very high, probably 32%. So, in fact, many mothers who get children while they're adolescents would probably end up at the edge or out of the labor market. Maybe if you spoke to doctors, they can give you a better picture of what happens to the girl's body. And as I said, my wife and I have seen cases of girls in the hospital, barely 12, barely 13 years old, whose bodies really are not strong enough, not robust enough to bear children. And I told you about the case of Prince Harry coming here. And the public health system in Guyana has actually adopted a practice, I don't know if it's still a current practice, that when these very young girls, frail girls, become pregnant, they're normally taken out of the location, usually a hinterland location, and brought to the Georgetown Hospital where they can receive better care, better treatment, because they're high risk. And one of the biggest risks is anemia. Um, Sometimes there's low birth weight, there's premature labor, and there are other serious consequences. Maybe a gynecologist could tell you um, what happens when a girl on the weight, on the age, girl becomes pregnant and comes to the stage when she has to deliver this baby. And sometimes her own life is in jeopardy. World Health Organization's published reports pointing out that adolescent mothers are 7 times more likely to commit suicide because of depression and other factors compared with other teenagers. So again, this is another tragedy that has been noticed, that the depression associated with adolescent pregnancy could lead to loss of the feeling of self-worth, and sometimes they're attacked by their former friends or their family. The child itself, herself, is likely to have lifelong medical complications and, of course, socioeconomic problems. The child of a teenage mother is very likely, not always, very likely to have a lower level of education for economic and other reasons, a lower level of academic achievement, a lower quality of life, and there might be behavioral or developmental disorders, and a very high chance of poverty. Um, some families depend on having a father and mother living and working together, and their shared income could provide a level of stability in that family. But when a teenage mother who is unemployed has to bear the burden of childbearing on her own without the presence of the father, um, this can have an impact on her quality of life, and it could lead to poverty. And very often it is the girl's mother, sometimes grandmother, who has to bear the burden of helping to bring up that child. So these are some of the consequences that have to be borne in mind. There are, of course, numerous interventions and institutions um, to provide for this epidemic that we have in Guyana. The fact that every day, 9 or 10 girls are getting pregnant or delivering babies. I mean, in any given year, you're talking about 3,000 um, uh, adolescent girls. Well, they are girls who are becoming pregnant. So there are many organizations at the governmental level. Of course, you have the Ministry of Public Health itself. Well, the Ministry of Public Security, to start with, must be involved, because once you have situations in which a large number of adolescents are becoming pregnant, it is very likely that some of those girls would have been raped, including statutory rape. And of course, you see pictures, you see stories, but you don't see the photographs. You see stories in the newspapers. But it is up to the Guyana Police Force to enforce the law with regard to sexual intercourse with girls who are under the age. And this is regarded as statutory rape. And there's an age limit set. And if a police regional commander is aware that a girl below the age of consent has become pregnant, it is likely to be rape. And it's not something to be dismissed as cultural or social, a matter of entertainment or mining culture or logging camp culture. No, 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 no. Rape is rape. A four-letter word, and the police must enforce the law to protect girls and to make predators aware that if they have sex, whether it's protected or unprotected sex, if they have sex with girls under the age, they will be prosecuted for rape. And if you have a police force which is lax in the enforcement of the law, then you're going to have a proliferation of cases. And I'm not going to go into who themselves, she said, whether parents are in denial or whatever. It happens. And as I said, it happens more frequently in those five hinterland regions than anywhere else. Region 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's where we have a problem. So, apart from the Ministry of Public Security, which is responsible for the Guyana Police Force, and the Guyana Police Force is delinquent in protecting these girls or in bringing the perpetrators, the predators of these crimes to justice, because many communities know what is taking place, and the law does not allow an underage girl to engage in consensual sex. So if it is not consensual, it is non-consensual. It is rape. In addition to that, the Ministry of Public Security, you have the Ministry of Public Health. I still call it Ministry of Public Health. And you have now also, there's what used to be called the Ministry of Social Protection through the Child Care and Protection Agency. And they are responsible for managing this. It cannot be at this stage eliminated entirely. I'd say the question of adolescent pregnancy and motherhood has to be managed because there need to be intervention on the part of government, and the state has to play a role. In addition to that, we have uh, several international, national, non-governmental organizations. Uh, we've been recipients of tremendous assistance from the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, and the World Health Organization, WHO, and also the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, and United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. In terms of local NGOs, we have the Anaira Foundation, which is led by my wife, Sandra Granger, the Guyana Responsible Parenthood Association, GRPA, the Guyana Women's Minors Organization, the Women Across Differences, the Young Women's Christian Association. All of these have worked, and there are other organizations, I'm sure, Red Thread, which have been involved at some time or the other to reduce the problem of adolescent pregnancy and teenage mothers, early motherhood. Pregnancy is not a disease. Where do we go from here as a nation, as a community? We need to understand that sex happens. And it is not a question of ignoring it. It's not a question of insisting on total abstention. I think we have to face the reality that sex happens and pregnancy is not a disease, it's not a sickness. It will happen, and there need to be measures which could protect young women, adolescent women, particularly in that period between the ages of 15 and 19. And we need to protect them from the stigma and from being scorned by society. But most of all, we need to protect them from becoming involved in behavior and without calculating the consequences of that behavior. Adolescent mothers or adolescents in general need to be exposed to advice and information about their sexual and reproductive health in order to prevent unwanted pregnancies. Because very frequently that pregnancy is unwanted. And we need to ensure that educated adults help young women to make prudent choices and not to leave them to their own whims and fancies. Adolescent pregnancy in any country can be costly, and it could be a contributor to maternal and child mortality. Complications arising out of pregnancy, especially among adolescents, and of childbirth, can be a major cause of death for girls aged 15 to 19 throughout the world. simply because the human body is not, at that age, especially if that person is malnourished, the human body is simply not capable of bringing a child into this world. Children getting children is not a joke. We cannot build a society, an equal society, where children are getting children. Because in any event, most likely, that young mother is not only going to face health risk, but also economic and social risk. Adolescents need to have a comprehensive understanding of self-control. Maybe people in some religious organization may call total abstinence. So all I'm saying, using now, is the term control, maybe self-control. They need to have a good understanding of contraception and contraceptive techniques. Sex happens, you might as well think about contraception. And they need to understand the consequences of sexual activity. It's not a matter of luck and chance. It is a matter of being aware of the consequences and deciding prior, to actually deal with those consequences, or, if necessary, to abstain. Many measures could be implemented or have been implemented, both by the state and by the non-governmental organization, international organization, to prevent or to protect adolescents from becoming pregnant. But all of these measures should aim at ensuring that Guyanese children are born into happy and stable families. Children getting children cannot be the best way to build respectful personal relationships, to build stable communities, and to build a prosperous country in which everyone could have a good life. We can do better, and all of us have a role to play in making sure that our adolescent girls do not get involved in motherhood for which they're not prepared. Let us aim at building a happy and stable society by making sure that children are brought into this world in a safe and loving environment. Thank you, and may God bless you.